Howdy folks, Jamboree here. Who is Thomas the Tank Engine? Thomas the Tank Engine started off as a character in the Railway series books by the Reverend Wilbert Awdry and later his son, Christopher. Thomas was then adapted into a TV miniseries called Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends, a show that I watched every day until roughly the age of 6. This series was then imported to the US and used as inspiration for the American children's show Shining Time Station. At the height of Thomas's popularity in the 90s, Britt Allcroft, the creator of Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends and the co-creator of Shining Time Station, was given the task of turning these shows into a movie. The end result was Thomas and the Magic Railroad. Now, I know that many of you are probably thinking, does Thomas the Tank Engine even count as film puppetry? Well, yes it does. The thing is, whenever the term film puppetry is said, the things that come to mind include Jim Henson's movies or Jerry Anderson's Thunderbirds. But film puppetry is broader than that. Watch this. It's a puppet. That is a puppet. Yeah, a banana can be a puppet. You see, live-action puppetry can be summed up like this: bringing an inanimate object to life while a camera continues to roll. So yeah, Thomas the Tank Engine is considered puppetry. The conductor of the island of Sodor is a very cheering man, but that glee starts to fade as his magic gold dust begins running out. It's happening at the worst time too, when an evil diesel engine called Diesel 10 is tormenting the station's residents, and plans to destroy all the steam trains, including a long-lost one. The conductor turns to his cousin Junior for help, but he's pretty useless because he treats everything like a game. Meanwhile, a young girl called Lily has come to visit her granddad Burnett on Muffle Mountain. However, Burnett is too wrapped up in trying to restart his steam engine called Lady to care about bonding with his granddaughter. One day, Lily explores the enchanting Shining Time Station where she meets Junior, who takes Lily to Sodor with him. Once there, Lily works out that the long-lost engine everyone is looking for is actually Lady. So, a brave blue train called Thomas helps Lily get back to Muffle Mountain so she can use Sodor coal to send Lady back to Sodor. Now, this film is apparently very different to what writer-director Britt Allcroft originally intended. You see, her version included a villain called P.T. Boomer, but test audiences said that the character was too scary, so the studio panicked, cut Boomer out, and took the movie in a different direction. So what we have is one hell of a messy movie, because Boomer's absence creates confusing plot holes in the story. My main reactions while witnessing this literal train wreck included the following top 5 responses. Number 5. What? Number 4. What is happening? Number 3. Why? Just... why? Number 2. And number 1. Can somebody explain? I need an adult. The studio attempted to fill these holes in with narration by Alec Baldwin, but most of his explanations don't fit with what's happening on screen, and you can tell that they've been half-heartedly inserted in at the last minute.
Next morning, Mutt traveled with Billy to the big city station. Mutt was sure Lily could help her grandpa, and that together they could help me. But only if Lily met someone special at Shining Time first.
Now, the director's cut of Thomas and the Magic Railroad is currently unavailable to the public. Sure, clips have been leaked online and you can read the original script, but there's no official copy of the director's cut of this movie, unfortunately. So, while watching this review, keep in mind that I am aware of the film's production backstory and that this is a butchering of the director's original vision. But I can't exactly fairly defend the director's cut without having seen it. At the end of the day, this is going to be a review of the theatrical cut only, okay? Firstly, there's too many plots and ideas for this film. You'd expect a movie for preschool children to be simple to follow, but this movie introduces so many running plot lines. You have the conductor's fading magic and his shaky relationship with his lazy cousin, Burnett's grief over his deceased wife and struggle to get Lady working again, Lily having a hard time connecting with her granddad, Lily's new friendship with local boy Patch, Thomas and his friends trying to stop Diesel, the secret of a magic railroad, and local townspeople being worried about Burnett. It's all a bit too much. The film scrambles to connect all these things together too. Sure, the events happening are somewhat relevant to each other, but there's striking differences between the plots in terms of tone, mood, and aesthetic design. One moment the film is a sad drama about a grieving grandfather, then suddenly we're watching Alec Baldwin playing children's TV host as he whimsically breaks the fourth wall. It's kind of fascinating how badly these things mesh together, because it creates this strange fever dream experience where we're watching drastically different movies bouncing between each other. What makes the film a slog to get through, though, is its very poor sense of pacing. A lot of the movie consists of the Sodor characters dumping out exposition about their world, discussing their many problems, and taking a very long time to work out a plan. Heck, most of the film reminded me heavily of the Cars Life movies, which is not a flattering comparison to make. Meanwhile, Burnett spends most of the film alone in his cave feeling sad, and Lily does nothing of importance until she comes to Sodor. It does make the first hour of the movie come off as padding, because we're mainly playing the waiting game. What about the actors? What did they bring to the film? Well, because the plots are all on different wavelengths, everyone seems to be doing their own things. It's kind of surreal. We have Peter Fonda playing the film straight with a very nuanced, somber performance as Burnett.
I just don't seem to understand about magic anymore.
But then there's Alec Baldwin, who was narrating the US dub of the Thomas and Friends show at the time, as the conductor, trying so hard to be whimsical that he comes off as uncomfortably off the rails. He's just too intense for a friendly, passive character.
So who dropped the ball then? Oh, there you are. I'd like to have a nice cup of hot cocoa. Would you fellas care to join me? No? What would you rather do instead? Go outside and play? Well, I can understand that. What do you think? Why do you keep hitting him like that? You're gonna have to have a timeout.
These jarringly opposing styles of acting draw attention to how these plots don't connect smoothly. Although I think the weakest link is Mara Wilson in her last ever film role as Lily. Mara has stated that she really enjoyed being in this movie, but it doesn't seem to show in her performance, as her line deliveries are very wooden and unenthusiastic.
Grandpa's been so sad since Grandma Tasha died, and he never comes here to see us.
Well, maybe your visit will cheer him up, Did you get his present?
Here. I'm making him a friendship bracelet.
Honey, that's beautiful.
But I'd rather just stay here with you.
This makes the whole grandfather-granddaughter plot ring hollow and empty.
Did Grandma love Lady as much as you do? Did she take a ride on her?
Grandma loved her because I loved her.
So let's talk about the puppetry, the focus of this review series. Well, the animatronic model trains are very limited in expression and movement, not just because they're stuck to railway tracks, but they also can't move their mouths. What they can do is move their eyes around, drive down tracks, and change their faces between takes. This is a very unique style of puppetry. I also commend the filmmakers for staying true to the original visual style of the TV show, and I must praise the puppet crew for working against their restrictions to show characters' emotions. But while I can see how much work and love has gone into these model trains, I don't think they're effects that are worthy of a mainstream theatrical movie, because they were originally designed for a simple series of 5-minute TV episodes. Although, the movie does do its best to compensate for this sometimes by filming the more intense scenes with a sense of cinematic presentation. But for the most part, the television budget effects are distractingly unfitting for a theatrical movie. I also don't blame some audiences for being creeped out by these trains, because they can barely move, yet we hear voices coming out of them.
It's not sunny because Mr. C's not at the windmill. I looked.
I think his sparkle's all gone. My smoke box doesn't feel sunny. It feels stuffed up.
Nasty fumes from dingy diesel.
And Diesel is after the lost engine.
Also, they do sometimes freeze on some rather off-putting faces, ones that made me a tad unsettled. Even as someone who has nostalgic attachment to the Thomas and Friends franchise, I'll admit that the trains do come off as a little haunting. I'm just more forgiving about their creepy factor because they were part of my preschool childhood. If you think these steam engine models look endearing and charming, then all power to you, but personally, I can see why some audiences would be disturbed by them. To conclude, Thomas and the Magic Railroad, in its theatrical cut version, is a very messy movie. It's over-padded, tonally confused, and often quite incoherent. Sure, I do believe that children between the ages of 2 to 5 will really enjoy this film, with its whimsical fantasy and talking trains, but once they get older, they'll realise that it doesn't make much sense as a film. I do think it's fine to show to kids, as it's pretty harmless and it teaches a nice message that you can believe in yourself despite your small size, an encouragement that will definitely speak to little children. I just can't say that this movie, in its theatrical cut, is actually good. I've been Jamboree, and I hope you enjoyed this review. If you did, then feel free to subscribe to my channel. Also consider supporting me by making a monthly pledge to my Patreon. Thank you. So, what am I going to be reviewing in the next episode of Puppet Panic? Well, it's been a while since I talked about a Muppets movie, so let's head over to Manhattan, folks. Cheerio.